So today's story is actually the secret to success life story. Okay, but before I start the story off, show reel. Pranam, Namaste. My name is Garret. Before I start the story off, please make sure you guys remember to hit like, subscribe, and comment your learnings in the comment section below. I'm dedicated to make 4 videos a week to spread more light and positivity out there to the world. Okay? So without further ado, let's start the story off. So once upon a time, there was this young man who decided to work in a factory. So while working in the factory, he was assigned to be an apprentice under one old man. And this old man was his mentor. Okay, and through the years of working in the factory, his mentor would always tell him to talk less and do more, be diligent at his tasks and be hardworking, always fulfill all the expectations of the factory's requirement, and always put in the effort to learn every aspect of the factory's operations. Okay, and this was the simple instructions that his mentor would give him. So after working for about 10 years, he's worked very hard and he's followed what his mentor has advised to follow this instruction, okay? And his mentor has decided that it's time for him to retire because he's really quite old. So after 10 years of working in that factory, the young man finally also become a technician in that factory, okay? So he's got the experience to actually be a technician now. So he's continued to listen to his mentor's advice to talk less and do more in the factory, and always be diligent at his tasks. Always make sure that he will learn every aspect of the factory's operation, and he always puts in his best and always make sure that he's diligent to his tasks. Okay, so one day he's finally decided to make a trip to visit his mentor. So when he visited his mentor, it seems like he's a little bit upset, and it seems that he's a little bit troubled. So his mentor then asked, because he knew that he looks troubled, right? So he asked, why do you look like you're quite upset over something? So the young man suddenly sighed a loud sigh and decided that he wanted to tell his mentor what has been troubling him. So he said, for all these years, I've actually put in so much hard work in the factory. However, I'm getting paid less than all of my other employees, all the other co-workers, and all of them seems to be of least experience than me, and they are not as capable as I am, and yet they are being promoted and they are getting paid more than me. I'm getting nearly paid as almost close to the time where I was still an apprentice, as similarly to what I am being paid right now. So it seems like they are not appreciating my efforts. So he told the mentor. So the mentor thought about it and asked him, are you really sure that you have made yourself indispensable in the factory, and that you have really learned all your tasks all about the factory's operation, and that you've really worked hard for it? And the young man agreed and said, yes, I'm very sure I put in good work and I'm very hardworking in the factory. So then his mentor have a thought about it, and the mentor just said, fine, if you really think that you've worked very hard in the factory and has made yourself indispensable, then it's time for you to take a one day time off, okay? So he told the young man. So the young man thought about it and seemed like, this is weird. Why did you tell me to go for a one day time off? And as he thought more about the decision that his mentor has told him to do, then he felt like it makes a lot more sense. So he decided to do just that, okay? So the mentor told him that you should find whatever excuse that you can to go for a time off, and he actually did. So he went back to the factory the next day, and he tried all his means to think of a reason to go for a 1-day time off. So he took a 1-day time off. Then the next day, when he realized that when he came back from the time off, right, he was called back to the factory's manager's office. He was get called into the manager's office, and the manager told him that during the time that he was away on that one specific day that he was not around, that everything in the factory was in a mess. It was in a chaos, okay, because everyone just doesn't know how to fix the problems that he would normally be handling in the factory, and that it was basically quite chaotic that he was not around. So that's where they realized that he is quite important in the factory. That's where the manager decided to promote the young man to senior technician. Okay, so he congratulated him for the hard work and the efforts of working in the factory for that amount of years, and for being such an indispensable staff. So then the young man thought, wow, this must really be the secret to success formula that my mentor has been speaking to me about. So he took this information into his mind, and every time whenever he felt like he's being paid less, or he felt like the factory is not doing him well, he would take a day off. Okay, and every time when he take a day off, right, the next day would be a better day for him. He realized that the factory would treat him much better. Okay, and he keep doing it. Okay, so back and forth for about several months. On one fine day when he was going into the factory, he was refused entry to the factory, and to his surprise that he was actually terminated from the factory. So he was shocked and he was lost at the same time. So he decided to quickly go and visit his mentor again. So this time round, he, with wounded pride, he actually spoke to his mentor. He asked his mentor, "What have I done wrong? So wrong this time that I actually got terminated from the factory. I listen to all your instructions and all your advice all this while?" So the mentor told him, "No, you did not listen to my advice, because you haven't completed listening to my advice, and you were so eager that you left without hearing the complete important advice that I have to tell you about." So the young man got surprised, and he was shocked to hear that, and he asked, "What was the second half of the advice that you haven't told me about?" So the mentor actually slowed down, okay, and tried to explain his point across to this young man. He was saying, "Look, actually what you've only heard was only the first half of the story. However, the second half is much more important than the first half. Okay, the first half, you've probably realized that as a staff working in the factory, just like pretty much a light bulb, okay, whenever a light bulb works very hard each day to be bright all the time, okay, no one in the factory would take any appreciation towards anyone who always works so hard and to always be bright at the time, okay. The only time where people would start to realize that light bulb is working hard is that when the light bulb is turned off, it's no longer bright anymore. That's where the factory will start to take notice, and you probably realize that." So he told the young man, right? So however, you were so eager to listen, and you were so eager to carry out the instruction that you've left without hearing the second part. So he told him, and then the young man said, "Yeah, please tell me what's the second part." So he said, "In the second half is that you must know that whenever a factory realizes that this light bulb is always turning itself on and off, it has become unreliable. And who would in the factory appreciate a light bulb that is always faulty, turning it on and off on and off at always almost any instance of the expense of time. Okay, so it's always turning itself on and off, so it's not reliable, you see. So in this story, he realized that he has made this blunder of a mistake. So you see, this moral of the story is basically learning how to make sure that we do not take things for granted in our lives. So think about it. Have you actually have any friends or family members that you've always stood around you, always by your side? They always support you when you are always facing any circumstances or any challenges in your life. Have you take them for granted? So that is one thing. And always remember, whenever you take these people for granted, please make sure that you will realize as soon as they don't shine around you, that's where you actually realize that, oh, they are actually important in your life. So just like the light bulb, whenever it's not shining anymore, that's where people will start to take notice. So don't take people for granted, especially the loved ones, your friends, okay? And also, one more important point is that even though in the working world, okay, it sometimes may seem like people may not take notice of you, okay? Learn to make sure that you are not taken for granted too, okay? And you must find a careful balance between being taken for granted and taking others for granted as well. So you must make sure that there's a fine balance between both, okay? Make sure that you always put in the hard work and always be diligent with your task. And when you do that, people will never shortchange you. Make sure that you find the careful balance, okay? And then that is the secret to success.